Hello! Guess who it is? It's me, Haiti. Welcome to my channel, Haiti's Corner, for another episode of History with Haiti. Now, just an audio check. Please, if there are people watching, please let me know if you can hear me. I've had some issues with audio yeah, apparently I got a check from myself, so apparently I have audio without an echo. Is that correct? I surely do. Yes, we can hear you. Wonderful. So, guess what? Guess who we have in the studio? Of course, we have Bertil. And last but not the least, I might give you Stefan. Oh, and lurking in the background is, of course, Morran. She was there lurking in the background. Of course, I have to take her in. Okay. Okay, for tonight's topic then. We have James the Sixth of Scotland, James the First of England and Ireland, from King of Scotland as James the Sixth, from July 24th, 1567, when he was, as I understand it, 18 months old. And King of England and Ireland as King James I from the union of Scottish and English crowns, until from March 24th, 1603, until his death on March 27th, 1625. Born as a son of Mary, Queen of Scots, and he was also the great grandson of King Henry VII, King of England and Ireland. So thus he was the potential successor to all these thrones. The Scottish throne, when her mother Mary, Queen of Scots, was forced to abdicate in his favor, and he had several regions, as I take it, four in total. He was also he had difficulties, and not everything went as planned. Gunpowder plot of 1605, and complications with the English Parliament, and there were the literature in England flourished. William Shakespeare, Francis Bacon, John Donne, Ben Jonson, and he also sponsored the English translation of the Bible that is still used to this day across the globe, in more of a stricter denominations of Christianity. It's, of course, the King James version, or authorized King James version. And yeah, what I what do I have for you, my dear viewers? It's it's his it's his quote unquote male favorites. The male favorites he for could be said gay lovers. All right, it's the only way of interpreting. Okay, so moving on. Okay, I'll just put this one on up for a moment because there is something I'd like to read. A quote. Um, and I quote, and yet I cannot content myself without sending you this billet, praying God that I may have a joyful and comfortable meeting with you, and that we may make this Christian mass a new marriage, ever kept thereafter. For God so loved me, as I desire only to live in this world for your sake, and I that I had rather live banished in any part of the earth with you than live a sorrowful widow life without you. And God so bless you, my sweet child and wife, and grant that ye may ever be a comfort to you, to your sweet dad and husband, my old sweet and dear child, James R. Did I mention that he was a talented writer? It's a love letter written by him, James, in 1624. So, which is it's it's a year prior to his death, and he wrote this to his wife, Anna of Denmark. He was actually married. Yes, he was married to Anna of Denmark. Uh, uh, I think she was a close relative to the king. I think it was a Danish king's daughter or something of the sort. Uh, However, yes, this rather touching love letter was written by James in 24 towards the end of his life, and reader may first be inclined. This was directed to his wife. Yes, he. When I read this, I thought initially when I first read this previously, I thought it was a love letter to his wife. And now that I read it again, I was a bit confused because it was sounded so much like as if it was for a woman. However, Anna died in 1619. That would have been 5 years prior, and this was in fact written to George Villiers, the Duke of Buckingham, James's last and most enduring favorite of his lovers. It's curious, isn't it? Uh, excuse me. Oh, so okay. Uh, Let me check. Okay, I'll just read one because this next paragraph was also very interesting. I actually forgot to link this particular article, but I will after the stream I will link this in the description box on YouTube, because this I googled. I googled because I had heard previously that he was queer. James was queer. So when I decided to pick the topic, googled it, what's up, started doing my hierarchy research. I came up with this. This was the first one. That's why I'm showing you this, because this is the basics. So James's sexuality has been the subject of much debate in his own lifetime and since, and it was a work of it was a work colleague that actually asked me the question, what, how gay? No, no, mind you, uh, this colleague didn't ask whether he was gay. He asked how gay. There is no question that he was queer, that James was queer. No question about that. If you read into it, you'll see. Um, because yeah, goes on. Because it isn't that straightforward. Of course, the term gay would now not have been used in the context of homosexuality in early modern Britain. In fact, same-sex love was described as sodomy, which is a term I've covered before. When I covered the term, the event as I think it was 2 weeks ago. I think I had an episode of History with Heidi about the Utrecht sodomy trials. It was of the same era, and though there as well, it was called in that context, in that era, in early modern the Netherlands, it was referred to as sodomy, which is not really doesn't surprise me really that it's something in that era. Anywho, let's go on. Sodomy was seen as an act of heresy and as a crime, so to have described James in these terms would have been very dangerous and difficult to prove. However, James was not the first king to have been suspected of such a crime. Edward II was known for his quote-unquote friendship with Piers Gaveston, and rumors of Edward's murder had by red hot pokers only emphasized this suspicion that sodomy was practiced by the king. Echoing. Interesting. Echo. Okay. Okay, do we still have an echo? Is there an echo? Echo. Echo is gone. Okay, excellent. I think, yeah, Mr. 42. Yes, previously I've it's been curious enough that I've almost pretty much every time you, Mr. 42, had been on my streams, I've had an echo or an audio issue of some sort. Okay, so okay, here we go. Just at any point, just let me know if there's if there are glitches, echo and shit. I've had more than enough. No, not Mr. 42. You're not causing an echo. It's not. Yeah, it's not your echo. It's just me not being completely knowledgeable in using Streamlabs OBS, and the audio settings. This week I have Stella. It's an excellent, excellent lager, Belgian lager. Anyway, moving on. Okay. Excuse me. I'll be right back. Hello. There we have it. I just had to do some jiggling around. Yes, King James. He, at the age, he at the age of just a few months, he became king. So it cannot have been easy. He never knew his parents. Henry Stuart, Lord of Darnley, murdered 1567, just just short of a year before his son was born. Mary of Scots, Mary Queen of Scots, his mother. She was she was when she was first she was forced to abdicate, and then she was forced to flee, leave the country, because she married a suspected murderer, James Hepburn, 4th Earl of Bothwell, and his maternal grandparents died. Paternal grandfather was uh, killed in a skirmish, and yeah. He, however, King James um, took a severe stance towards the sodomy legislation in the English law. He lists in his book Royal Gift, Basilicon Doron, I butcher that, but sodomy, in his opinion, was among those, and I quote, horrible crimes which ye are bound in conscience never to forgive. There we have it. From the horse's mouth. But it's still these days, yeah. Some often the homophobes are the worst. Some many gay people, strongly gay people are the worst homophobes. It's not. It's not something that is any news to anyone who's been following the discussion. So, upon arriving in Edinburgh at the age of 13, he was born in the Edinburgh Castle, but going into the administration somewhat. He met a man who was married, had 5 kids, and was 24 years older. A Puritan, a Franco-Scottish guy, Esme Stewart, 6th Lord of Daubigny, who had been described as of nature, upright, just, and gentle. But this this sort of relationship would have been considered illegal in most countries today. But hey, it was 1600. But hey, it was centuries ago. You know, it was 1500s. So they, however, they they developed sort of a relationship, um, if you can call it such. He made Aubigny a gentleman of bedchamber. You know, um, someone who, as I understand it, taking care of certain practical work there, like as in law, you know, attending to the needs of the bedroom. Any British or who know any better, please do tell me if I'm completely wrong. And made him an earl, a duke, and he was Catholic, being coming from a background in France, but being Scotland being Presbyterian, that caused quite stir. But hey, this was quite interesting. Um, and and an English observer went on to say, and I quote, "From the time he was 14 years old and no more, that is, when Lord Stuart came into Scotland, and even then he began, uh, and to clasp someone in the embraces of his love above all others, and that James had become in such love with him as in the open sight of people often will clasp him about the neck, and with his arms kiss him." Oh. And it was said that the king was drawn into carnal lust, of course, or horrible things, you know. It's not. Even though nowadays live in nowadays we are in more of a liberal society. Uh, I don't think it would be how should I put this? Be considered appropriate uh, for a British monarch to behave in this way. So I wouldn't be. I of course I think we've had a few. We've had a few. I think Elizabeth II's cousin or second cousin was Isabel Gay and got married, but it's still highly frowned upon, uh, as I understand it. So, of course, this Lord Stewart was quite a bit older, and when James reached adulthood, he was already past, and he then found a wife for himself. James found a wife, uh, Anne of Denmark. Well, it was it could be considered the same sort of marriage that uh, in modern times some gay men are, you know, forced to marry a woman and then come out and then run around fucking men. Anyway, then um, there was there were pretty, pretty much three uh, gay lovers he had, and well, what we know of, we had the Esme Stewart, the Lord of Dabbington. Then we had Robert Carr, first Earl of Somerset. Uh, this one was a bit more interesting. Uh, well, these two latter ones were more interesting than the first two. Anyway, hey, by the way, please, while you watch, please like, a thumbs up, a thumbs down, and subscribe. And please, if you have comments or questions, please ask your questions, put your comments in the chat. They'll pop up on the screen. Anyway, Robert Carr, first Earl of Somerset. Some years later, uh, after they well, there was quite a stir with his previous uh, his previous uh, affairs, shall we say? But hey, it's so that's what sometimes happens. Um, so this Lord Esme Stewart, Lord Dubbing, he obviously, by the way, went into up the ranks, and he made Duke of Lennox, which is, as I understand it, quite high. Duke is high. Anyway, when he died, and James had married Anne, um, Anne of Denmark in 1589. And then a few years had passed, and the controversy and the Hus had settled down. He began a relationship with Robert Carr. Uh, he at the time he was 17, son of Thomas Carr of Herne Hist. He was north of his. He had an accident there, broke his leg and stuff. And there, while he was being attended to and stuff, James fell in love with this young man and showered him with gifts when the years went on. But hey, there we go. He, of course, what else? Robert Carr was made gentleman of the bedchamber, like like Lord Stewart, or and later Duke Lennox was, uh, who was also granted these um, titles, shall I say? And apparently he was good looking. Why would a king otherwise like this young man? Is 17-year old. But hey, it would have seemed to be appropriate at the time. Yeah, he was also given these titles: Viscount of Rochester, Knight of the Garter, Privy Councillor. Given these higher end titles, which isn't unheard of. His James' previous lover had a fancy about his lover getting all kinds of um, interesting uh, titles. Uh, of course, uh, the downfall came. Through a beautiful young woman. Um, Immoral things happened, like a divorce. Um, he was this young man, Robert Card, who was now Viscount of Rochester. Uh, at his request, the king stacked up a court of bishops that would allow uh, a young lady, Frances Howard, to divorce her husband and then marry the Viscount of Rochester. Well, that comes back to what I said earlier about the worst homophobes being gay themselves, but they have the obsession of keeping it quiet. And here we have the young man trying to keep his homosexuality quiet. Uh, yeah, that caused the stir. Um, he, as a wedding present, he was required. James was required to um, create a earldom. I think is the term, made Earl of Somerset, and when they fell out, of course, eventually, and the king complained that had been creeping back and withdrawing himself from lying in my chamber. Quote, and I quote, notwithstanding my many hundred times earnest soliciting to you to the contrary, and was rebuked James as uh, uh, he rebuked James more quote unquote more sharply and bitterly than ever my master Buchanan durst do, and that is from a book by Louis Crompton called Homosexuality and Civilization, page 387, if you care to read. And well, of course, a scandal broke out. Hey, what do you expect? When the underkeeper of the tower revealed that Somerset's new wife, this was the young man who was previously called Robert Carr, who is now Earl of Somerset. His new wife poisoned a man uh, named named Thomas Overbury, his best friend who opposed the marriage. Hey, this. What else would you expect from a royal from associate of a royal family in the 1600 early 1600s? You don't like you don't like I married your you don't like that I married this lady. Screw you. I'm gonna poison you. Yeah. Um. Of course, King James, put them on trial, and both were sentenced to death. So don't screw with the king, or he'll screw you back. Anyway, they had it a bit they had it off a bit easy, but hey. And then we get to George Villiers, the first Duke of Buckingham. Um, last of three was George Villiers, son of a Leicestershire knight. Met around 1614. When this situation with his lover number two, Somerset, Earl of Somerset, was still going on. Yeah, they they hit it off pretty well for the rest of for the rest of James's life, pretty much. He uh of course, Duke of Buckingham was also given all these fancy titles, shall we say. Um, yeah, in 1615 he was knighted. 8 years later, he was the first commoner in more than a century to be elevated to a dukedom as Duke of Buckingham. Yeah. Uh, of course, although as I understand it, he was um, raised in an unorthodox order in relation to um, eventually becoming a duke. So in 2004, between 2004 and 2008, the Aberthope Hall was restorated or renovated. Or I'm not quite sure from what I gather if it was a restoration or a renovation. Anyway, there was a previously unknown linking a secret passageway between the bedchambers of King James and his favorite George Villiers, and he was blunt, unashamed. So from a letter, uh, in a letter, he compared his love for um, Duke of Buckingham. He compared it to Jesus' love of John as follows: I, James, am neither a god nor an angel, but a man like any other. Therefore, I act like a man and confess to loving those dear to me more than other men. You may be sure that I love the Earl of Buckingham more than anyone else, more more than you who are here assembled. I wish to speak in my own behalf, and not to have it thought to be a defect. For Jesus Christ did the same, and therefore I cannot be blamed. Christ had John, and I have George. If that is not if that is not gay, nothing is. Hey, he was a Presbyterian in late 1500s and early 1600s. What the fuck do you What more do you expect to find more explicit material? Uh, there's no question that King James was queer, and I think he was more towards being actually gay more than a bisexual. Uh, yeah. Of course, he did have kids. Uh, from the marriage, decades long marriage, actually. Um, they married. Uh, he married Anne of Denmark in 1589, and the marriage lasted until Anne's death. Um, yeah, which which would have been 30 years. So he was married to a woman for 30 years, but still, he was sending quite explicit letters to men. Uh, you may be sure. You may be sure that I love the Earl of Buckingham more than anyone else, and more than you, who are here assembled. That is a queer man writing to another queer man. Yeah. So the question is the question is how queer was James the Sixth of Scotland, James the First of England and Ireland? Very, very, um, very queer. Not 100% gay. I doubt it. I think he still loved Anne in some ways. Loved Anne of Denmark, but he was yeah he was more towards guys. But it mustn't have been easy because if James was a commoner at the time and was doing this is what he did. He wouldn't have survived alive a long time. Uh, yeah, uh, he would have been dead long before. He would have been executed, or at least be rotting in jail in some dungeon below Edinburgh or London, uh, and not be a king, uh, and not be a free man. But hey, he was the king. He was the monarch. Okay, there have been plots to, to murder a monarch uh, in centuries past, and it's not it. Some have been successful, some not so much. But yeah, it's not fair for all. Uh, and it mustn't have been easy for him either. All this gossip and scandal, public scandals, him being shamed publicly for who he was. And there was also uh, yeah, but yet um, the Duke of George Villiers, the the Earl of Buckingham, uh, or Marquess of Buckingham, actually became friends with Anne of Denmark because they obviously he couldn't get a divorce uh, from Anne. It would have been even more bigger of a scandal. Just stay married and uh, do what you like, but don't make a fuss about it. Um, Buckingham and Anne became friends, good friends actually, and he addressed him affectionately in affectionate letters, begging him to be always true to her husband. Yeah. Hey, gay lover, be good to my husband. So, yeah. And in a letter to James, Earl of Buckingham, well, the Marquess of eventually of Buckingham said, "Sir, all the way hither I entertained myself, your unworthy servant, with with this dispute, whether you loved me or not, better than at a time which I shall never forget at Farnham, where the bed's head could not be found between his master and his dog. James uh, addressed him as a spouse in some of his letters, um, and these are really interesting. And these are from the David. These that I use here are from a book by David Moore Bergeron from 1999, King James and Letters of Homoerotic Desire, University of Iowa. For those who want to get the book, yeah, I'm sure it's a read. And in yes, as I said, James sometimes uh, addressed to him as the Marquess of Buckingham uh, as a spouse, that saying that I desire only to live in this world for your sake. I had rather live banished in any part of the earth with you than live a sorrowful widow's life with you without you. God bless you, my sweet child and wife, and grant that ye may ever be a comfort to your dead dad and husband. Um, and he's said to have broken into tears when the information of the word of James's death uh, reached him on a diplomatic mission in March of 1625. Yeah, that was actually quite moving for me. That yeah, even at that time, there was a full public record of a gay person being somewhat openly, more or less openly, in a homosexual relationship in late 1500s, early 1600s. And then when the king's death reaches his lover, he he's in gets in tears. Uh, it, it's it's lovely. So this is a bit of queer royal history um, from me to you with love. Um, anyway, do you, my lovely darlings? Uh, I won't compare my love for you as that of Jesus for John, but I still love you, and I would love to get some questions from you. Uh, Comments, uh, questions, um, of course, from those who watch this um, as a replay later. please leave a comment in the description box. I will be going quite soon. I had a long day at work, and I will have another long day at work tomorrow. So please get me some comments, questions, etc. While I take a moment. Okay, okay, there we go. Okay, has there been any echo since the first episode? Has there been any other glitches? Because um I'm still in the initial steps of transferring to another platform. I decided to the reason I have been I've had a few glitches, notably the audio glitches here and there, is because I switched from StreamYard to OBS or Streamlabs OBS. So that is there are, and that's why you can see all these fancy bells and whistles. These fancy bells and whistles which I didn't have, which I obviously didn't have previously. So I hopefully the image I tweaked up some settings for the settings for the audio sorry, for the video settings. So I hope it has been there haven't been any, the video quality has been good, and no glitches. I haven't seen any on my stats here. I don't see that there would have been any dropped frames. Okay. Okay. Nope. It says Katato. Okay, excellent. Now, but I can tell, but it's not. Yes, at least I can now. I I think when I watch the playbacks, I think to my own eyes, it looks like the overall image quality, like what this wise, looks, or the image quality in general looks a lot neater, because because StreamYard is essentially browser based, and it doesn't give too good quality, I think, then in the long run. So because I have somewhat of a powerful computer, I can my computer can push all kinds of things. But hey, we are done for tonight. I sincerely hope that you've enjoyed you've enjoyed uh, this show of history with Haiti, uh, about King Henry VI of Scotland, King James I of England, and Wales, Ireland, excuse me. So please like and or thumbs down, thumbs up, I don't care, and please subscribe. That would like and subscribe. That would mean really a lot to me. Um, yeah, that is what I have for you, lovelings, tonight. And I will see you on Monday for um some Monday news. Hey, what else did I get from Hades Corner from on Monday? Okay, Bertil, hello, Morran was here today, and Stefan was here today with me in the studio. There. No, this episode of History with Haiti has now come. Whoa, do we actually have? Can that be correct? This can't be right. See, we have 6 viewers. Do we, please? Where do we get six viewers? Is that correct? Do we have a glitch? Please, 6 viewers, let please let make your presence known. I mean, I've never had this many people watching at the same time. This can't be right. Okay. This should be interesting. We have. Okay. Dear viewers, I not going just quite yet because please, new viewers, three viewers, four viewers just came in. So please make your presence known. Whoa. Whoa. Okay, just towards the end we had a surge on viewers. Excellent. Please, new viewers, could you please tell me where you found this my live stream? This is on YouTube. That is, several viewers came in. Where did you all lovely new people find my channel? Oh, and there's this live show. I was just about to go for this episode, but all of a sudden there was a surge of new viewers. It's always lovely to see pleasant surprises, really. I mean, yeah. I have YouTube open here. Why did you, new viewers, let me make your presence known. It sounds there's Katasoa at least is Mr. 42 watching. Wow, that's glitches. Okay, whatever. Okay, whatever.